Does same genetic code mean same ancestor? Welcome to Critical Thinking Scan, where we look at how you can think about any faith-challenging message and arrive at a biblical, logical conclusion yourself. I'm Patricia Engler, and today let's think about a common argument which my first-year biology textbook put like this. All forms of life use the same genetic language of DNA and RNA, and the genetic code is essentially universal. Thus, it is likely that all species descended from common ancestors who used this code. Is that true? Let's think about it. Using critical thinking check number 6, check the interpretations. First, what's the observational science? The fact we can observe in the present is that DNA encodes the genetic information of all known life forms. Like episode 71 explained, DNA gets transcribed into mRNA, and most but not all living things use the same codons, or 3-letter long mRNA sequences to code for specific amino acids when building proteins. That's what's meant by universal genetic code. tRNA molecules read these codons to add the right amino acids for making specific proteins. Other codons, called stop codons, tell the tRNA where to stop adding amino acids. And most living things use the same 3 sequences for stop codons. But certain bacteria, protists, yeast, algae, and even the mitochondria in your cells use some of these sequences to code for amino acids instead, or they show other differences to the usual genetic code. There are additional exceptions as well, which is why my textbook didn't call the code completely universal. So that's all observational science. What's the historical science? The story my textbook is constructing about the past says that all living things descended from common ancestors who used the typical genetic code. Many evolutionists would still say a single common ancestor. But other researchers, such as Dr. Craig Venter, lead inventor of a synthetic bacterial genome, challenge the idea that there's one evolutionary tree of life with one common ancestor, because the genetic code is not universal, as evolutionists once predicted. And as one research team pointed out, any change in the genetic code alters the meaning of a codon, which, analogous to reassigning a key on a keyboard, would introduce errors into every translated message. In other words, changes like reassigning stop codons to code for amino acids would affect the entire organism, adding deleterious mutations all throughout its genome. Besides, how does stop codon get reassigned? You'd have to not only change the relevant tRNA, but also somehow replace all the reassigned stop codons with recognized ones. And as some have pointed out, experiments which try to replicate these steps require researcher intervention and foresight. In other words, intelligent design. So changing the genetic code even once doesn't fit what we know with observational science. Besides, whether people suggest the code evolved once or multiple times, what assumptions are behind these historical science interpretations? Well, they're assuming functional, interpretable, informative codes can emerge from unguided processes. You can learn more about the problems with those assumptions through the linked resources. So, what's an alternative explanation for the fact that most living things use the same genetic language? They have the same designer. And this designer engineered living things to interact with each other. And that helps explain why living things are made from the same basic building blocks. So plant DNA, for instance, contains information to help plants manufacture proteins and sugars that our cells can use for energy. And regarding genetic codes, why would we expect the same designer to use different codes for most living things? That would be like an author having to invent a new language to write every book, or a programmer having to come up with another coding system for every computer program. The fact that DNA is like a language or a coding script itself points to a designer, especially because the genetic code most living things uses seems to be about the best code possible for protecting against errors. According to some researchers, the universal genetic code achieves between 96 and 100% optimization relative to the best possible code configuration. And it makes sense for a good designer who designed an optimal code to apply that code to many different organisms. In summary, the genetic code and its exceptions do not support an evolutionary explanation, but in fact, point to a creator. For more on how to think critically about any faith-challenging messages, you can access my other CT scan videos packed with tactics, tips, and tools that helped me as a Christian student at Secular University. Thank you for watching. Hey, it's Patricia. Just wanting to let you know that if you like these videos, are on board to share the message of biblical authority and want to give, you're welcome to help Answers in Genesis produce more content like this and equip more people to defend their faith by making a one-time donation or becoming a monthly supporter by clicking the link below. Thanks so much.